But all right, so welcome everyone to the SSPIY's November meetup. We have a great panel of speakers today from our mentoring working group. So I hope everyone's excited for that. Before we get started, I did want to share that our SSPIY's website is up and running. Let me share a link to our website. So that is a link to our mentoring page, which if you're interested in joining our mentoring session, the next round will actually start in January. So whether you want to be a mentor or a mentee, definitely check out the program. In addition, there's multiple pages on the website now. If you're interested in conferences and networking, check that out there. If you want to get more involved in SSPIYs and you didn't really know where to start, we do have a get involved page now as well, so you can see what you might be interested in. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Jennifer, who will be moderating our panel today.
Excellent. Thanks so much. So the feedback from the first couple of years of our SSPI-wise mentorship program has been fantastic. It's been a wild success, but we also heard feedback that mentees were looking for help on how to build strong mentoring relationships, which brings us to our panel today. We have three fantastic mentees we will hear from, and I may throw in a few comments from my mentor perspective along the way as well. So let's get started with some introductions. So I'm Jennifer Dawson. I earned a doctorate in mechanical engineering from Stanford University. And after a short stint as a professor, I moved to industry and spent most of the last 15 years building spacecraft for Maxar Technologies. I recently made a big career pivot to join a nonprofit to use my engineering skills to help protect schools from active shooters. So in terms of mentorship, I have relied on mentors throughout my career. They have been critical to helping me stick with engineering because more than once I was ready to walk away entirely. And so as a result, I also give back as a mentor, both formally and informally. I have served as an alumni mentor at both Bucknell and Stanford. I led Maxar's mentorship program for a year, and I've been a mentor for SSPIYs for the last 2 years. So that's a bit about me. Endeliza, can you give us a little bit about your background and what your affiliation with mentoring has been so far?
Sure. Good morning or afternoon. Good evening. My name is Endeliza Hampton. I'm a recent law school graduate. I'm actually transitioning from regulatory compliance and employee benefits into the space industry. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm looking forward to sharing my experiences with the mentorship program, and I'll give somebody else an opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks, Endeliza. And how about McKenzie?
Greetings. I am McKenzie Weeks. I am currently the marketing manager at Atlas Space Operations. I have been in marketing and business for about 7 years now, and I have been lucky enough to have 2 mentors, one local to where I am located in Traverse City, Michigan, who has followed me throughout my career. And then also in the industry with SSPIYs, really great program and have benefited greatly from this program. I'm novice to being a mentor, but I have had the opportunity to lead some interns and some other colleagues over the past couple of years. So looking forward to sharing my experience today.
Excellent. Thanks, McKenzie. It looks like Vinny may have dropped off for a second, so we will continue on. And when she joins us again, we'll have her do her introduction. So we'll just roll with it.
Yeah, she just got here, so I'm gonna go ahead and, well, let's see, her sound is not, yeah, here she is.
Okay, Vinny, are you back on? Can you give us your background and introduction and your experience with mentoring?
Vinny, you're on mute.
I'm so sorry. I'm having technical issues today, and we tested it out, and gotta love technology. But I apologize. I'll get back onto it. But my name's hello everyone. My name's Vinitha Lalvani. I'm born and educated in Sri Lanka. My career journey has been a series of new assignments, providing opportunities to learn about different nationalities, industries, and organizations, as well as adapting to new professional networks. I began my career in a secretarial position and advanced into an executive assistant role, supporting C-suite executives in Sri Lanka, Australia, and the US. So, leveraging my experience as an executive assistant while working in Australia, I seized the opportunity to advance my position into a business systems role, where I became the trainer and systems coordinator for Oracle systems for staff across 3 health services. Due to family demands in 2015, I relocated back to the US and landed at AVL Technologies as a marketing coordinator, handling trade show logistics and supporting marketing efforts. With my desire to learn more about AVL products and the business operations, I recently accepted a role in project management. So for me personally, joining SSPI WISE and the mentorship program has been extremely rewarding. I have been an active member of SSPI WISE since the inception as co-chair for the social media working group. And recently I accepted my new position as vice president of SSPI WISE, and I continue to support the social media group. So this has been my journey so far.
Wonderful, Vinny. Thank you. So we have an awesome group of panelists here. Super excited about this. McKenzie, the first question is going to go to you. How did you prepare for your first mentorship session?
Well, SSPI WISE did a great job in formally introducing us to our mentors. But the first step I took was sending an email directly to my mentor. I want to give a shout out to her, Sharon at Hughes, or formerly at Hughes. She was very responsive. Just let her know what I wanted to get out of the program. Hey, here's who I am, my experience level in the industry, and then what I wanted to get out of the mentor-mentee relationship. And then what I did was I went and Googled her name. I know it's a little bit creepy, but I did Google to learn more about her role, anything I could find about her background that I could make relevant to things I wanted to know about the industry, about marketing. So I really worked to understand who she was, her experience level, and the company she worked for. And I also tried to put a face to a name and connected on LinkedIn. I think that was really important too, putting that face to the name. And the next thing I did after we said, hey, here's our date, time, I tried to come up with a list of agenda items that I wanted to talk about. You know, the first meeting that we had was a lot of introduction and, hey, here's who I am, what I do, but tried to come up with things that I was looking for out of the relationship and seeing, you know, how we could both help each other. So I tried to be prepared every meeting.
I love that, McKenzie. From the mentor perspective, having a mentee that comes in with some ideas about, hey, this is what I want to talk about, you know, here's where I have a current pain point, or, you know, here's the goal I want to reach. Let's talk about how to get from point A to point B. That can really help the conversation be focused. And it also sends a signal to the mentor that this is a mentee who's invested. They're willing to put in a little time and effort to make the most of the time that the mentor's investing in you. So I think those are fantastic steps to take. Vinny, do you have any other thoughts about what helps to prepare for your first mentorship session?
Yes, in fact, I can, relate to the background and the research that McKenzie did. I was very similar. I also, although having worked for excellent bosses, this is actually my first formal mentorship program that I am in. So I didn't know quite, I quite didn't know what to expect at first. Like, how does this program go? How do I approach? What's my first steps? So I did some research, but again, like McKenzie mentioned, the WISE mentorship program provided an exceptional program overview with guidelines, which talked about objectives, what to expect, the benefits that you'd get out of the program. And so my preparation first, and also they sent us, when the mentorship program paired us, I was paired with my mentor, and I was sent a brief bio. So I had a bit of I knew my mentor's background. But again, knowing what I wanted, where I wanted support, where I was coming from, it was, I think, for me important to get to know my mentor and vice versa, and to see whether there's a connection, whether we had that connection, because it's very important, because we could be in a relationship and then it would just not be working, right? So at our kickoff meeting, we talked about, our professional backgrounds, shared our experiences, and just knowledge, and where I was coming from, what I wanted to get out of it, and where I needed the help. And also, so during the intro phase, we agreed at the beginning, let's meet weekly, frequently, because it was important, because again, we're getting to know each other. And then we committed the time, we talked about, open communication, the transparency. I think these are all important to get that relationship going. And we discussed areas where I wanted to focus, and goal setting. And my first task was to write an elevator pitch, which was an absolute great start.
What a great idea. I heard so many pearls of wisdom in there. So at the beginning, Vinny, you were talking a little bit about what I was hearing was some feelings of vulnerability of putting yourself out there, right? This was kind of a new thing you're doing for the first time, might feel a little bit of scary. That is normal, right? And I think a lot of us, when we're reaching out to somebody to build a relationship, it can feel a little scary to do that. So feeling that fear and doing it anyway, huge. I would say from the mentor perspective, it can feel a little scary too sometimes, right? Because inherently, if it doesn't click, there's a little bit of rejection in there, right? And it's going to happen. Not every mentor-mentee combo is going to be an awesome fit, and that's okay. And you can make decisions to not pursue it further, but it is a little feeling of rejection, right? So some of this is about just being willing to put yourself out there. And then towards the end of your comments, Vinny, it's a perfect transition into our next question, which was, what was the most helpful for building rapport and trust with your mentor? So Endeliza, do you want to tackle that one?
Sure. I actually knew about my mentor before I was paired with her. I heard her on a panel when I was in law school, and she was on a panel with other amazing women. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, if one day I get to work with them, like that would just make my life, my day. So when I was paired with my mentor, I was extremely giddy. I was just ecstatic. So the first thing I really had to do that was helpful for me was tame my own expectations and the perception of how I should act and what I should or should not say. So that was one of the main things I had to do. And that really meant being authentic and open with not only how I felt about the pairing, but also about my goals, which at the time was trying to pass the bar exam, and also share my concerns about that goal with her so we could move forward. So it was definitely a different experience. So.
Wonderful. Thanks, Endeliza. McKenzie, how about you? How did you work to build rapport and trust with your mentor?
Well, I echo everything that Endeliza had to say, and congrats on passing the bar. That is an awesome accomplishment. As I stated in the first question, I tried to always come prepared with topics and talking points for each meeting. I think being respectful of somebody else's time, that was really important to me. One thing that I found as well is the whole work-life balance kind of relationship. We are more than just talking work. My mentor knows a lot about my personal life. That's how our conversations evolved over time. It was very much business at first, but I feel like leaning into a couple of personal related things my mentor knows I bought a house in our time together. I was dealing with those stresses on top of professional things. So I think, making it so it's not just business related, but adding that personal aspect to things. And then we talked not just about industry, but things that were happening in our roles or trends in our roles. Like, for example, Chat GPT in the marketing world became a big thing. And not just in the industry, but as a marketing, and how, the scare of it taking jobs. And so we had conversations about more than just industry related things, but also personal, and then trends and things that were, going on in the world too. So, adding that personal aspect, I think, was really helpful for us.
Excellent. Yeah, McKenzie, I think you are so right that when we can show up as whole people to that mentoring relationship, so it's not just limited to work stuff's important, growing kind of in an intellectual sense, as well as having opportunities to reflect on our own job performance, our relationships in the workplace. All of those things are super important. But when we can layer in some of that personal, what's the wider context around our work life, I think it does create a lot of meaning. And that does segue well into the next question. So Endeliza, I would love for you to jump in on this one. Impactful relationships often involve some level of vulnerability, of sharing something when it feels scary, when it feels like I'm not super proud of this moment. What was a time that you kind of bravely shared something hard with your mentor, and what was the impact of that sharing?
I actually love what McKenzie just said about bringing your whole self and a personal aspect to the relationship, because I grew up with the keep it to yourself frame of mind, right? And going back to the fact that I was giddy because I just couldn't believe that I was paired with my mentor. As we started talking about and putting forth a plan for me to pass the bar, like my whole life just kind of imploded, like work, life, family. It was really a difficult time for me. And normally I would shy away from sharing any of that with anybody and try to just put on a brave face and keep moving forward. And I really kind of came to a point where I was like, I need to just let her know what's going on, because I was frustrated, but I was also ashamed that I couldn't meet what I thought were perceived expectations, right? So as I actually unfolded and shared the difficulty that I was going through, my mentor was just extremely supportive and encouraging. And she showed a level of care that actually really built that foundation for trust, right? And so we were able to move forward and build upon that. But had I hesitated more than I already did, I don't think we'd have the relationship we have now.
So brave, Endeliza, and so wise. You're absolutely right that when we can talk about and put words to the things that feel really scary to share, because you use that word ashamed, right? We all experience this, and it grows in the darkness, right? But when we can open it up, when we can share it with someone else, when you get empathetic listening on the other side, it is incredibly powerful for diminishing that shame. Now, it's important to have people that are trustworthy when you're doing that and who are going to empathetically listen. And say, I see you, I've been there, you're not alone, right? Those kinds of messages are super important. So if you take that risk and you do that sharing, and maybe you're not getting the kind of empathetic response you wanted from your mentor, that's a data point, right? And that can influence kind of how much sharing you do down the line. But I think taking that step and giving it a shot to see how your mentor responds is so valuable. I personally had a mentor who was one of those people I could share anything with. And so when I found out I was pregnant with my first child, I had just gotten my first industry job offer from Space Systems Loral, which is now Maxar. I hadn't even told my parents I was pregnant yet, so I really didn't feel like telling the hiring manager yet. But I worried that if I withheld that information, it would be held against me in some way down the line. I knew legally I was protected, but I was really worried about not giving the hiring manager a heads up. And so I confided in my mentor, Paul Middigy, and we really wrestled with it for a good couple of hours before he kind of had an aha moment and said, hey, there's a form in this like package of materials that I needed to sign that said I had to be able to get on a lift, a loft, or a ladder as part of the job. So he said, here's what you do. You email the hiring manager and you say, hey, I'm of an age where pregnancy is a possibility. And I want to make sure that I could fulfill the expectations of the job if I happen to become pregnant. Right. And so he wrote back, he's like, what he has to legally. Oh, yeah, no problem. We can accommodate it. No big deal. Right. Okay. So then after I started and a couple of weeks later, when I was like, so that theoretical pregnancy, that's real, he kind of paused. And then like he put the pieces together and he was like, oh, that's why you sent me that email. He's like, I totally get it. I have 4 kids. I know why you didn't tell me right away, but thanks for the heads up. I really appreciate it. And he ended up being a senior executive at the company who went on to really act as an ally and sponsor for me for many years after that. And I think that decision to in a savvy way, kind of give it a heads up without feeling like I was, oversharing, something that I wasn't ready to communicate yet, ended up being critical for my long-term career success. And it really was a mentor that helped me navigate that. So those impacts that those wise mentors can have can last a really long time with some of those critical decisions. Wonderful. So Vinny, I want to turn it over to you next. How did your mentoring relationship affect your personal or professional growth over the past year?
So before I answer this question, just going back to the previous question, and I think also, confidentiality, that's another thing that we look at when we, such personal information we share. That's the other thing that we worry, will it be, kept confidential? So I think, that's an important aspect too in the relationship. So moving on to the question. So mentoring encompasses a lot of aspects, such as expanding your professional networks, knowledge transfer, and professional development. So to me, professional development is a continued process as well, because we continue to learn every day. Every day we are learning, co-workers, our bosses, from family, friends. So I actually have gained through my mentors, knowledge and experience, I've gained a better understanding of the satellite industry. And just the advice and the guidance and direction that she has provided has helped me navigate challenges, explore my options, better my skills, and actually challenge my ability. As a result, I have gained that confidence to push myself and get out of my comfort zone. And I am sitting here on this panel today, thanks to my mentor for her encouragement and support. That's shout out to John Mancuso, who's my mentor. And her words in our communications resonate. And she mentioned once in an email communication, she said, Vinny, the challenge is to be focused and proactive, which I have, and I continue to do so professionally. And it's helped me grow and also personally. And one thing I always look forward, and I really appreciate, my mentors' emails always end with words of encouragement, which has actually helped inspire confidence. So thank you. Joan?
Vinny, I love that theme. You went from knowledge, right? Sharing information about the industry, to that bolstering your confidence, and now you're taking risks, you're stepping out, you're doing new hard things, and that's leading to new opportunities, more professional growth. So cool.
Absolutely.
Love that.
Absolutely.
Excellent. McKenzie, how about you?
So like Vinny, I am new to the space industry, and this is my first time on a panel as well. And without my mentor's guidance and encouragement over the past year or so, I wouldn't probably be doing this. And as we know, the space and satellite industry is very complex, always evolving, and can be very intimidating for somebody who is new to it. And my mentor really helped me navigate those challenges, and not only within the industry, but as a marketer in my organization. She helped me develop an internal communications program when I had questions. Managing 2 interns. I was under the impression I was only going to have 1 intern, and then it turned into 2. And so navigating that program, because it adds a level of commitment and stress to already trying to understand the industry as in itself, and then managing others. So really helped me navigate that, as well as help me navigate my management and leadership style. What kind of leader do I want to be? Like I said, I'm a novice mentor, but I think it's never too early, and we evolve over time. So really helped me do that. Help me address difficult situations. I know that was one of our questions, and I would ask her, how would you say this, or how would you go about this situation? How would you handle it? Or have you ever had to? And that's been really great. Somebody who has experience that I don't, not only in this industry, but in a leadership role, that was really helpful for me. But one thing I really took away from in growth was number one, I think I gained a friend and confidant when I need to speak to somebody to boost my confidence too. But I also found that my mentor's wins also felt like my wins a little bit too. It was so exciting during my mentor's tenure as a VP of marketing. They ended up launching a constellation and went down to Cape Canaveral, and it felt like I was there and a part of it, and that felt so special to me, even though I had no doing in it. But it was awesome, and I feel like that role is reciprocated too. My wins are her wins as well, and I hope she would feel that way too.
100%, McKenzie. I think that wisdom around the meaningfulness of our career experiences grows when we're doing it with other people that we care about and we're invested in, and we have those relationships with. It really truly gives our professional life a deeper meaning than just, oh, check that off the box, I got something done. When you can celebrate it with someone who's celebrating right alongside you, that's really cool. Love that. And Endeliza, how about you? How has mentoring affected your personal or professional growth over the last year?
First, I loved listening to Vinny and McKenzie. I would echo a lot of what you said in terms of professional growth as well as personal growth, probably in ways that we don't expect it. I think most of the time people think about mentorship as just going in one direction, but it really does go both ways. And I've been very fortunate to kind of feel the same thing, like you said, somebody else's wins or your wins, and you're always rooting for somebody else also. So I really enjoy my mentor, which is Ruth Pritchard Kelly. So if she's on here, thank you. If not, I'll say thank you later. But this program especially has just been life-changing for me. And I truly mean that. I professionally and personally, my mentor has connected me with so many different people in the industry. And like McKenzie said, it's so hard when you're new, or if you're transitioning into it and you're not really sure how to navigate. And going back to my own expectations, should I act one way or should I act a different way? So how do we really come with our authentic selves? She's also really encouraged me to apply for positions and take the challenges. Same thing. I'm new to the industry, but this is my first panel. Was hesitant to do it, but was also really encouraged. And one of the biggest things she has always said to me is to let other people be the ones to tell me no, right? To not hold myself back. So if I see a position or an opportunity that I am extremely interested in, to kind of just go for it. That has probably been one of the biggest personal growth stretches. I don't think any of us like to hear no, and we don't like to hear no like repeatedly, right? And especially in a way that you don't take it personal. I think that's the biggest lesson is one thing is the hearing the no, another thing is internalizing the no. So I'm still working on it, but I've definitely gotten much better at saying, okay, you know what? I took my shot. It wasn't meant to be, or it's not going to work for them. But what it also has allowed me to do is start encouraging other people to take their shot. I actually recently had a text conversation with somebody, and there was some hesitation about applying for some positions. And I was like, you know what? Just go for it. Let them be the ones to say no to you. And I've been finding myself saying that a lot more often. So Ruth, thank you, because that's moving forward.
So love that, Endeliza. I am a recovering perfectionist, and it's been a real journey. I have found a lot of wisdom and inspiration from folks like Brene Brown, and some others who have helped me reframe failure in some important ways, right? Realizing that if I'm not occasionally failing on some level, it means I'm not stretching myself hard enough. I'm staying too comfortably in my comfort zone. I also like, there's a TED talk about the power of not yet, right? A no isn't a no, shut the door forever. It's a not yet. And maybe there'll be an opportunity down the line, and maybe I need to go grow some skills, or maybe I really am feeling a sense that I should be doing something else, not what I initially thought, right? So there's a journey there that can happen in those no moments that don't have to say, go like really chip away at the self-efficacy, which I've been vulnerable to in the past. But instead, we can reframe those moments as a learning opportunity or a way to stretch and grow, or a vital part of how we take risks and grow and get better with time. Love that. So much good wisdom there. So one of the keys to having a successful mentoring relationship is clear expectations about meeting frequency and time commitment. I think there's a lot of wisdom, and I think it might have been McKenzie said at the beginning that early on in a mentoring relationship, it helps to like meet every week to kind of get the ball rolling, or maybe that was you, Vinny. But then maybe, back off to every other week or once a month over time. A pet peeve I have heard from mentors is when they get ghosted by their mentees, when they just stop communicating. And I'm also just, in general, a big believer in the importance of what I call good goodbyes, or finding ways to recognize and celebrate meaningful changes in relationships, whether that's kind of reducing the frequency of a mentor meeting or someone moving on to a new job opportunity, right? This happens all the time in our work life. So how have you approached conversations about winding down the meeting frequency while not abandoning the relationship? So let me kick this over to McKenzie to get us started.
So this is an interesting question. I feel like I've been lucky enough that I haven't had to really give goodbyes. I feel like my mentors might be stuck with me forever. I'm just kidding. But no, I've been fortunate enough to watch my relationships with mentors kind of naturally evolve over their lifespan. And I feel like if it is a mutually beneficial relationship, they never really end. So you don't have to have that goodbye. So I really don't have good advice on having that goodbye because I haven't said it. But with open communication, I've watched the ebbs and flows and created mutually beneficial relationships. So, started, like Vinny said, we started out connecting weekly, and then it kind of went to bi-weekly, and we found that our time slot wasn't the best suited for us, but we had open communication about it. you know, having communication and saying, hey, I have to cancel, has been a big deal, and communicating about that. And since this started, our dynamics and both of our roles have changed, but we've also stayed in touch. You know, watching what they do on LinkedIn and congratulating them on their wins, and connecting with them when there's losses too. I really don't have good advice for good goodbyes, because if it's a good fit for each other, you never have to say goodbye.
No.
I love that, McKenzie. Yeah, lots of good wisdom there about how there is kind of a natural rhythm to those really successful mentoring relationships, where usually there's kind of an acute phase. Maybe it's a formal program where you're kicking it off and building that relationship. Sometimes it's, I'm having a work crisis and I really need help right now, right? And so you'll meet frequently to get through that crisis. And then it becomes a little bit more on demand over time, right? That's a very typical pattern. And you're right, you don't ever have to officially say goodbye in those cases of a strong mentor-mentee pair. Excellent. Vinny, how about you? Any thoughts on this one?
So I'm the same like McKenzie. I've never had to approach the conversation. In fact, I've been with the WISE mentorship program from the inception, and so going on 2 years. And I've had the same mentor for 2 years, and I don't plan on giving her up unless, and I don't think she plans on giving me up either. So, but personally, I think mentoring relationships are meant to last. Yet, meeting frequencies can change for various reasons, but that doesn't mean your mentoring relationship should, end. And like you said, McKenzie mentioned, Jen, you mentioned frequency. Initially, you would meet, frequently. Then as time goes by, you'll think, okay. But then there's a commitment. I'm very committed. And also, if you have to make changes or, in schedules, you approach that, you mutually agree on another time to meet. But I think once you do find a mentor that you trust and really connect with, over time, you will create that bond. You will cultivate a friendship, and then your relationship really strengthens, and it's lasting. The only reason I would see a mentorship relationship ending would be if the dynamics are just not there, and then you mutually agree, both parties mutually agree and say, look, we're going to end it. Now, fortunately, with the WISE mentorship program, it is a structured program. So you have the option if you want to continue beyond your end date, or just end it in the program. So so I, again, like McKenzie, I don't wish to let go of my mentor, and she's probably stuck with me, and I myself with her, and I continue. There's a new intake that's starting in January of 2024, and I plan on continuing with my mentor.
So well said, Vinny. Love that. Thanks for giving the context around the program. That is super helpful. I'm going to offer a little different perspective. I've got a little bit different lens on it, and particularly from the mentor perspective, but the same thing applies from the mentee perspective. There's an opportunity cost optimization that's happening with this, right? None of us have infinite time to be having mentor-mentee conversations, whether it's in one role or the other, right? There's a finite amount of time that we can devote to it. And so it's about finding that right balance of finding those mentors where you really click, you go deep, and you sustain those relationships over the long term. I've been so blessed to have several mentors that I meet with several times a year and have for more than 20 years. And those are my go-tos. It's the Paul Medigans, it's the Keith Buffingtons, folks that I go back to time and time again because they have just invested in me, and it's a really meaningful relationship. But I have other folks that I identify as mentors that I met with once. I had the great privilege of having dinner one time with Pam Melroy, who's now the Deputy Director of NASA. And over the course of 2-3 hours, she shared so much wisdom with me that like I have shared liberally since, and it's made me a better mentor. So even though it was only one, one-on-one interaction, it made a huge impact. And I see her as one of my mentors. So there can be a time and a place for, very brief mentoring that maybe doesn't continue, but also for those mentoring relationships that are sustained over the long term. And so what you're trying to balance there is breadth and depth, right? It absolutely is essential to have those really deep relationships, but the more time you're working on deep relationships, then it's less time you can spend broadening that network. So for example, my first year in the SSPI WISE program, I had a mentee at the 1-year point. We had an explicit conversation about, okay, where do you want to go from here? And she said, hey, I really want to get paired up with a new mentor and focus on building that new relationship. And I said, great, that's awesome. Wish you nothing but the best as you move forward. What I will also say as a mentor is it means a lot when there's an element of gratitude that comes from the mentee. And so, things like down the line, doing an occasional phone call or even just a quick update email letting me know how they're doing is awesome. Like, I just love being able to see how my mentees are progressing in their lives and their careers. And so finding these small, authentic ways to say thank you to your mentors down the line, even if that frequency has tapered off, really helps to strengthen those bonds and really keep that mentor motivated to continue mentoring. So could be as simple as sharing that positive impact of their advice over a quick email, or, for one of those mentors of 20 plus years, when he retired last spring, I flew across the country to be there for his retirement dinner. I wrote an article on LinkedIn about his impact, and I gave him a personalized gift, right? So it can scale with the level of investment and the importance of that relationship. But finding those little ways to express gratitude really reflects well on the mentee, and again, helps to build that just kind of mutual goodwill and meaning in that relationship. Okay. So last question here. In informal mentoring relationships, it can be hard for us as women to embrace the title of mentor. And yet so often the ways we nurture and support the people around us is mentoring. How do you know when you are ready to be a mentor? And what are those benefits of mentoring others? Endeliza, can you jump in on this one?
Sure. I loved how you said that there's also mentorship opportunities that are short-lived, right? Like you said, a one-on-one, really great conversation for 3 hours. And I don't think we always think about those as mentorship opportunities. I know even myself, I really struggle with the title of mentor. It just seems way too elevated. I'm like, no, I am not a mentor. But in this discussion, one of the things I realized is a reframe of that word makes me more comfortable with it. So I think, Vinny, and throughout this conversation, we've used words like information, knowledge, experience. So if I think reframing it from mentor to, do I have information, knowledge, experience that I can impart to somebody else, then it made me a little bit more comfortable with just that word in general. And if the answer is yes, then we're probably all more ready to be a mentor than we really think we are. And as far as the benefits of that, I think, at least in my experience, it's extremely rewarding. First of all, I didn't know about SSPI or SSPI WISE until I was almost out of law school. Like, I wish I would have known about it sooner. And so one of the things I do now is whenever I encounter students or law students, and I know, or actually anybody that I know is interested in the space, but specifically law students, I ask them, first thing I do is, are you an SSPI member? If they're like, what's SSPI? I'm like, oh, let me send you some links. Here you go. Because it really, I have benefited so much from it. From the lessons, from the mentorship, from the monthly meetings. So I want to be able to give that back to somebody else.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Yeah, I totally agree. It's never too soon to start. And research shows that mentoring others helps improve our own self-efficacy for women in male-dominated fields. And I have absolutely found that to be true. When I can share something of my experience with someone else, it makes me feel like, oh, okay, I have something to offer here. I also believe that mentoring others is a great way to start building management skills. So it teaches you how to listen, how to ask good questions, and how to provide that effective feedback. Also, I inevitably get new insights into my own work life as I talk through issues with my mentees. And sometimes it's as simple as the mentee complaining about something their boss does. And I realize, oh, shoot, I totally do that, which helps me to get better, right? And I want to put a plug in that I also believe in the power of reverse mentoring, where junior employees act as mentors to the senior executives. So in my time at Maxar, I saw how sometimes those senior executives can get a little disconnected from the day-to-day experience of the rank and file. And so I think reverse mentoring can be a really powerful tool to help those senior decision makers in the organization stay grounded in the real issues and experiences of the employees. So never too early to get started as a mentor. Okay, so now we want to transition to take some questions from the audience. I love that the chat is already filled up with some really great questions. One easy one was a question about, is the program internationally represented or not? And it absolutely is. I'm based in the US, and I have 2 mentees right now, one in Europe and one in Africa. So we've got mentors and mentees from all over the world, which is awesome. And so the first question here that I want to kick out to the panel is, what have been some of your biggest misconceptions each of you have had about mentorship in general? Does anyone have a thought on that? Maybe McKenzie, I see you nodding. Do you think you can jump in with an idea there?
I think my biggest misconception has feeling like I was going to be a burden and quite frankly a time suck to my mentor, and that's not the case. Again, if you come prepared with talking points and you make time to ask about their interests and get to know them as well, you create that mutually beneficial relationship. And like you mentioned, Jennifer, the reverse mentoring, it's an opportunity for somebody who's at my level and somebody who is in a leadership role, an opportunity to learn as well. So I think the being a burden was my biggest misconception, and I am lucky that I have never felt that way and make sure that I respect my mentor's time.
I love that, McKenzie. Yeah, I've had to fight through that too when I've asked for time from people who I admire and respect, and I know they're really busy. And so, you know, I try to stay centered on the gratitude, right? What I can do to say thank you is to make the most of the time I'm given with them. And again, you all had really fantastic ideas about how to make that time as effective as possible. And then a little bit of that follow-up afterwards. The mentor has committed, you know, in a formal program like this, to putting the time aside, right? They're invested, they're saying, I'm willing to sign up and do this thing. And so making sure that as the mentee, you're grateful for that, but also really trying to take full advantage of every minute that you've got with them. Huge. Excellent. Vinny, do you have a thought?
Yeah, so I echo what McKenzie says, but the other thing is, you know, the commitment sometimes, you know, you're like, okay, how much do I need to commit? You know, what is it? You know, you don't know, especially being this, for me personally, it was a first time. So you think, you know, can you commit that time, you know, because I think a lot of it is the onus on the mentee, because you're reaching out, and of course also on the mentor's part. But like you said, they've invested this time, you know, whether it's that 1 year period that you're in this program. So it's like, how would you be able to commit? That was mine. But I was, like I said, I found my right mentor. I, had a connection, and I was committed, and I can count the times that we meet now monthly, and I can count the times that we had to reschedule. It's always been that time. I'll send a note to my mentor saying, I'm still respectful because things can happen. Are you just giving you a reminder? We have a call coming up, are you available? Happy to reschedule. So yeah, so that was it. But I'm committed all the way through.
Love it. Thank you, Vinny. So I see Apurva has her hand up. Would you like to ask a question?
Hello, everyone. So actually I have a request to make. But before that, I would first thank you and everyone, especially the speakers, for the hard work to come on board and share their experiences and exposure with us. These are all very valuable insights. So my request was that we hold the Zoom meetings and it works fabulously. But as we're talking about the mentorship program, it will be really great if we can hold, like, in every state, because we are from different companies, an in-person meeting. I think that will be a great way to boost our this knowledge sharing and to get to know each other. Plus, like, every company has a different culture, so we'll also, when we meet in person, we can know more about it, what they're doing, and try to kind of take that knowledge and utilize in our own jobs. So yeah, that would be really great. And thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, great suggestion. I love being able to meet in person whenever possible. I'm super excited because that mentor Paul Medigi that I mentioned early in the panel.
There's a different energy to it, right?
There's a different energy. I get to have lunch with him on Friday, and I'm super excited because we're going to be there together in person. So, we can definitely take that as feedback. But again, with the mentorship program, we are very far flung all over the world. And so it may not be feasible for SSPI-wise to kind of figure that out for everybody. And so what I would encourage you to do too is you can plan stuff, right? There are ways for us as individuals to show kind of initiative and make it happen for ourselves too. So I would encourage you to think about how to make that happen.
Like, we can start from the city. Like, for example, we are in this county, right? We can go county wise. So all the women who are from the same county, we can meet, and then we can go with the state, and then like that in the hierarchy we can go up. But we can start from the county itself, because in the county itself there are a lot of companies, and we are associated with SSPI. So just thinking out loud.
Yeah, and the wider SSPI does have kind of local chapters, and so that can be an opportunity to find those local resources as well. The other thing I will say, just kind of in this wider context of mentorship, is I have found it's very important to have mentors both in your current organization and outside your current organization. So in the organization mentors know who's who in the zoo. They understand the organization and the politics and the priorities, and they can provide that kind of insightful contextual guidance. But they also have some skin in the game, typically, with your decision making, right? So they may not be like super willing to encourage you to go take a job somewhere else, right? And so it's helpful to also have those mentors outside your organization, because they can be that unbiased set of eyes that can kind of help you navigate like a decision. Is it time to leave this company or not? And those sorts of things. So as we think about the kind of breadth and depth in our individual mentor networks, I would encourage you to look for both of those types. And then I will put in a special plug for the best kind of mentor, which is one that was at the organization and has since left. So
awesome.
I'm still regularly meeting with a couple of my Maxar mentees. And so it's this nice world where I totally know, who they're talking about and what kind of work they do and how the organization runs, but I'm not there anymore. So I don't have that same level of investment in terms of outcomes and that sort of thing. I can be a little more focused on their personal best interest and not kind of wear the two hats of, well, I've got my company hat on and I've got my kind of mentor hat on. I just think that kind of ties a little bit into that question around geographically close mentors. And it's another way of kind of thinking about some of the elements of your mentor network. Okay, we are almost
Thank you so much.
Yeah, happy to. All right, let me see if there's one more question here. Let's see. If somebody sees a question in the chat, feel free to unmute and jump in. Let's see. I'm not seeing any. Okay. Any other questions? Anyone else want to jump in by unmuting? Okay.
Actually, I have a question. Can you talk about next steps? We've filled out the applications. Can you give us a sense of timelines and what happens?
Yeah, Wendy, do you want to jump in and answer that one?
Yeah, sure. So now is the time to fill out the forms. There's an application for mentors and an application for mentees. Jomia put the link to the mentoring page in the chat. We'll be collecting applications in November and December, and then in early January, we'll start the matching process. So probably about mid-January, mid to late January, we'll be making introductions between the new mentors and the new mentees. And have you, are you looking to get a mentor?
Both. So I'm willing to mentor and also be a mentee. So I filled out the applications and it sounds like I just need to sit tight.
Oh, good. Yeah. I haven't seen those yet, but I'll look for them.
Excellent. Yeah, when we launched the Maxar mentorship program, it was about this time of year, and we found it's also a time of year where there's a lot of end of year activities going on. People are traveling, there's a lot of holidays, and it made it a little hard to kind of get that like quick start to the relationship. And so we felt like getting things started officially in January gives us a little better chance to be able to hit the ground running. So that's why there's a little bit of a delay, but we're definitely excited about kicking off the next round. I want to thank Endeliza, McKenzie, and Vinny. All of you are first-time panelists. You did an absolutely incredible job. I appreciate you being willing to be vulnerable, to share your lessons learned, to get us all very inspired to go strengthen those mentoring relationships in our own lives. So thank you for your participation. Thank you for the encouragement and the questions over chat from the audience. I love that. Have a great rest of your day and come back next month for the next SSPI WISE meeting.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Have a great week. Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. I'm
Bye.
bringing Jomia back. Hello. Jomia's like, wait, what?
I was really like, wait, what? But yeah, definitely want to echo the thank you to McKenzie, Vinny, and Endeliza, and especially Jennifer for being an excellent moderator. Next month for December, it will be our 3rd year anniversary. So for those that didn't know, we started in 2020. So it's been a long journey, but more journey to come. So definitely look out for our next meeting, and then we'll have the new year coming up after. I did also want to point out, we talked about in-person events. We are starting to plan some of our in-person events for next year. Usually they focus around different space conferences. Some of them you might even be able to go just as like an exhibition hall free pass. So definitely check out those links. It's definitely the time to start thinking about which conferences you might want to take a look at next year. But yeah, see you all next month. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a good week.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jennifer.